Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show, live here in the On Purpose Woman magazine Facebook page. I'm Ginny Robertson, one of the hosts of the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show, and I'm also the founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine and founder of the On Purpose Woman global community. I'm here today with book mentor, Mary E. Knippel. Thanks for being here, Mary.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited.
I am too. I really like what we're going to be talking about today. And what we're going to be talking about is, yes, you are a writer, and yes, your story matters. So, Mary, before we dive into our topic a bit, I want to tell our viewers about you. So, Mary E. Knippel, book mentor, supports small business owners to get their expertise out of their head and on the page as an expression of their unique voice and a powerful driver of business growth. Mary helps entrepreneurs create a foundation and a vision to share their distinctive message. And you can visit her website at yourwritingmentor.com. So let's start with this idea of that you're a book mentor. I think you're the first book mentor I've ever met that used those words. So what does that mean exactly?
Well, what it means to me is that we all have a specific story that we have to share with the world. And a lot of times that means that it's a book. It's a physical thing that you're going to use to promote the business, or it's your legacy that you're leaving to your loved ones. And so to couch it a little bit, it's when you talk about your story, it's that the message that only you can tell to the world because your story matters and you are the one that can tell it from your perspective. You are the only one who can tell it from the inside out.
Why does this matter to you?
Oh, I have been writing since I was 11 years old. I've known that there was something specific about the connection between your head and your heart and what comes out at the end of your pen. And so I started keeping a journal, which was just a 10-year-old talking on the page about what was important to me, what mattered to me. And the worst thing was having to keep it away from my older brother, who was insisted on wanting to know what secrets I had. And, it's mostly who I had a crush on and who was cute on TV last night. Mm-hmm. But it's evolved and it's been my confidant and it's a way that I've worked through a lot of big stuff.
I don't think we were calling it a journal when I was growing up. It was a diary, it had a little lock on it and everything. And I was an only child at that point. My two sisters had already left home. And my thing was I had to keep it away from my mother because I did these little tricks that showed me that she was, trying to read it. And I'm thinking the same thing. It wouldn't have been all that interesting to her, but I don't have any of those. Did you keep them?
Oh, absolutely. I have that journal. And
go ahead.
And saw, that I was writing about who was cute on Wagon Train and copying poems and, the dreams that I had about what was I going to do when I was a big girl, when I was a woman.
Mm-hmm. I think that must be so amazing to be able to go back and capture that young girl. Because I think, a lot of us will remember some things, but we're not in our words, really.
Absolutely.
That would just be such a gift to have kept those.
Yes, my husband doesn't really appreciate that all of the boxes I have of journals, but all this paper, but definitely they're useful when you know that at some point you're going to be wanting to go back and reread some things so that you're accurate when you're talking about something that you want to be publishing at a different point. I don't necessarily encourage people to read everything that they write in their journal, but to get it down on the page, it helps you get it out of your body.
Do you remember, you said you started writing about the age of 11? Was that, did somebody give you a journal or did you just have this desire to write and you just started?
No, it was just something I was compelled to do. And it was just a spiral notebook. It was not one of the cute diaries that had a little cute lock on it. I was one of 6. So there wasn't going to be an opportunity for me to keep something padlocked, but I could find places for in a journal to be out in the open and still be distinctly mine.
Right. Well, you say that you're committed to being a catalyst for everyone you encounter. You want them to embrace their creativity and gain confidence in the story they are here to share. Would you please say more about that?
Oh, absolutely. I I am so committed for you to know that you have a story and it's only you that can express it because you know what it means to you. And as a catalyst, that means that I witness your story in a way that you don't necessarily see it as being extraordinary. You think that it's ordinary because doesn't everybody do that? And the truth is everybody doesn't, because you're unique. Your voice is unique and the experiences you've had are unique. And so that's why I call myself your writing mentor. That's the name of my website. I meet you where you are as far as what do you want to accomplish, and help you to be the cheerleader, say, yes, you have a story, and to architect to build whatever it is you want to build, a chapter in an anthology or blog posts or redoing your bio for your website. That's where I really feel like I get to be Barbara Walters or Oprah Winfrey, to be asking those questions. And sometimes we all cry because we get to a part of the story that you haven't been talking about because you don't think anybody cares and that it matters to anybody else. And so the final thing is that I'm your witness that yes, it matters, and I reflect it back to you so that you get to own your story.
That's so beautiful. I love that. That must be really rewarding for you.
Absolutely.
So, from that perspective, then everyone has something to say, right?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
and I heard someone say once that everything has already been written, but not by you.
But not by you.
And so, what do you say to then to women who are listening to this, or I'm sure you've heard them say this? I've said this in the past. Well, I'm not a writer, or who would want to read what I have to say? And how do you get them from that place to the place of believing that they really are?
Well, I like to quote one of my favorite mentors, Maya Angelou, who would sit down in front of her yellow legal pad and pick up her pen and go, oh, it doesn't matter how many things I have already published and how celebrated I am. Here's the test. Will I do this? Are they going to find out that I'm a fraud now, that I'm stuck when I sit down in front of a piece of paper? And then you brush off that inner critic the way she did and say, well, right now I'm going to write on this. I have this assignment. I have this idea. I want to express myself on the page. And so we're in really good company when we think about, well, if Maya Angelou, somebody like that, could sit down and have doubts, then we're in good company. Yeah. And she kept writing. So what do? We keep writing. And you got to remember, the first reader that really has to be engaged with what you're saying is you. You have to be involved in it. It's your story.
Years ago, probably one of the first workshops I did, so we're talking a few decades ago, I was going around the room. There were about 40 people, 40 women in the room. I don't even remember what the workshop was about. There was a woman sitting in the front who at that time was probably close to my age now. I don't know for sure. And she said, and I asked them to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about them. And she goes, well, I want to be a writer. And I just heard myself say, well, do you write? And she said, yes. I said, well, then you are a writer. And that was something that made the biggest difference to her in that moment. And through the morning, and it was a full day workshop, I could see her start to step into that role. And to me, it felt like, well, of course somebody said that to her before. And maybe they had, but she finally heard it that day. And she did go on to do some pretty amazing things with her writing. But it's
Mhm.
that whole idea of, well, I aspire to do that, or I want to be that. But we're already being it in so many ways, right?
We absolutely are. We don't give ourselves credit. If you write more than happy birthday on the card, if you write thinking of you, or do you remember when, you're writing. And I gave a workshop for a mom's group once, and they said, I never have time to write anything down. And I said, do you ever put little things on the calendar? You know, I want to remember that they did this on this day. You're chronicling your family's life, and that is a way of journaling. I mean, there are books out there for the one word journal, and so that give yourself credit for what creativity leads you to be leaning into.
And you said the C word, that was the next word, because, creativity is also, I guess it was just last week that I interviewed an art educator and community artist and we talked about art as self-care. And this whole idea of how so many of us will say during the course of our lives, I'm not creative because it's supposed to look a certain way.
Mhm.
And so that's another thing that I'm sure that you must hear, even if they admit they might be able to write something down. Well, I'm not creative. I can't think of things to do. How do you help them with that?
Oh, yes. And I say we are all artists of the everyday. You know, no matter
Ooh,
what
I
our
love that. I
genre
love that. I'm
is.
sorry to interrupt you, but I absolutely love that.
Well, I borrow that from Sarah Van Bronick, you know, my one of my big mentors, the author of Simple Abundance.
I
That
love that book.
absolutely, we are artists of the everyday, and when we celebrate the things that we do that give us joy, and one of my writing series is about coaxing creativity tips, that you look for the ways that you can invite creativity into your life. Just because you're not going to have something hanging in the Louvre doesn't mean that you can't call yourself an artist. I
Mhm.
mean, that was my backstory for a long, long time. It was like, I can't draw. I can't. You look at me picking up a paintbrush. Well, but when you invite that opportunity, you don't know what else can come into your life. And I like to connect writing with all sorts of different things. I have a workshop called Bead by Bead where we make a beaded bracelet, and then I correlate the choosing which beads went where on that strand as how you build a story, how you tell something so that you get your point across, and you don't come in right away with here's the ending. You build that up and give the color and the details so that you put your reader in the room with you. You have them know what time of day it is, and what you're, if you're having lunch, what the food tastes like, what the place setting is like, and so that's how you invite creativity in everywhere.
When I was probably up until my mid 30s, one of my common things to say was, I don't have a creative bone in my body. And I remember I said that in front of somebody, a woman, but I don't remember who it was. And she looked at me, she like puzzled. And she goes, well, Jenny, who wrote that workshop? Who created that workshop that you gave last week, or that talk that you did? And I'm like, but that's not really creative. And I really had never seen that as being
Ooh.
creative, because I still had that old idea that it has to be something in the arts.
Mhm.
And even if I'm writing, even if I'm writing down this workshop, it's not published anywhere. So unless it's published, it doesn't count, or unless it's hanging in a gallery, it doesn't count. And I think I've run across so many women over the years who had that. And I think a lot of that comes from, being taught how to stay in the
Yes.
lines, and being taught how to be creative,
Mhm.
which is about being not creative. It's about following the rules.
The
And so
rules,
I
absolutely.
found I found nothing in that very satisfying. So I would
Yeah.
just not do it at all. So
So the stories, the old stories that, well, this is the way it has to happen, and not to be open to the fact that if you're willing to not go by every step in the cookbook, that you are creative. If you're willing to not follow the map and still get to your destination, you are being creative. And so giving ourselves permission to be all of who we are, and not just, oh, okay, this is the box that I'm comfortable in
yeah.
and I'm accepted in. And if you're willing to say, I'm more, I can do more,
Mhm.
this is me, then I celebrate you.
And I think that's so important because as long as we're thinking we're not something, if since I know I am creative, I don't really care what that looks like anymore. So I don't feel like I have to go learn. I'm not drawn to taking an art class. It doesn't call to me really. And so why would I go do that until it does call to me? But
Mhm.
before I would think, oh, I wish I could do that, or I just can't do anything like that. And so it makes a huge difference in our self-worth. Would you think?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And giving, so I'll go back to giving yourself permission to have that opportunity to get messy with a paint class, and with the understanding that you choose the kind of teacher who is inviting you to come and explore and have the experience, and not for the end result that this is what we're going to have on display for the art show when
Right.
we no, that doesn't measure up, so you can't be in the art show. It's like, I'm not doing it for the art show, I'm doing it because I want to see what it was like to play with paint.
Yeah. I do really like that a lot. So let's just talk about this idea then that women in particular, I think, hold ourselves back in that way. And we don't, you said that you had women in classes who said, well, I don't have time to write. It's
Mhm.
busy moms, or I have to do this first, or that's just kind of frivolous, or because women are caregivers and women are the ones holding the fort down, if you will. And so putting ourselves always kind of second in that. So how do you get women to start to think of this differently so that it doesn't feel like a luxury item to be able to go and write or take some time for yourself like that?
That is a key thing, that the self-care, and to think about writing in your journal as a way that you are taking care of yourself. As
Mm-hmm.
I had mentioned before, that when you get that story out of your body and onto the page, it releases whatever the emotion or whatever the catalyst was for you to even get those words together, and makes room for the next thing that the universe or spirit, or however you want to interpret it, is guiding you to have awareness of, because we are living our story, we're holding our story within us all the time. And when I have the opportunity to be that mentor to talk about, okay, we all have a story and it's ours to tell, and you don't have time to write, okay, I invite you to create a writing practice for yourself, 5 minutes every day with your journal. And this isn't your time to make your laundry list of, oh, I got to do this, or what do I need to remember at the grocery store, or I got to pick up this birthday card and get it in the mail. This is your time to do a little dreaming. This is your time to listen to that voice that's been in your head telling you, da 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 da, we got to figure this out, da 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 da, how are you going to handle this, da 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 da, and get off that squirrel roll, with the words on the page. And that's why I don't always encourage people to go back and read their journal stuff, because one of the one of the big things that people will say too, well, if my handwriting is terrible, I won't be able to read what I wrote. It's like, good. I'm not asking you to stand up in class and recite. I'm asking you to get those words out of your body and onto the page. And 9 times out of 10, you'll repeat the same words. They will come back in a different format, until your body and your head get together and say, okay, this is what we wanted her to know about this, and we can move on. We can answer the question in a different way. But creating your own writing routine, just the way when you go to the gym, you wouldn't go in and pick up 50-pound weights immediately. You'd start with 5 or even 1 and work your way up. That's why I encourage you 5 minutes, the same time every day. Write longhand, set the timer so you're not looking at how much time has gone by, and just let your hand move across the page. And don't worry if you can't read it. Don't worry if you misspelled something. Don't worry if you need a comma somewhere. This is to get the ideas out of your head and onto the page so that you can move on, and you can increase it. You can, maybe you don't do it on Saturday and Sunday. Maybe you take a break, but you build that momentum. And after a time, you'll find that, well, 5 minutes isn't long enough. I want to stay here longer.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter if you do it in the morning or the evening or on your lunch break. It's being consistent to make that be your writing practice.
So what it sounds like you're doing, Mary, is giving women the opportunity to write without expecting any kind of an outcome.
Absolutely.
They're just
They're getting a
expressing what's
download.
in there. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds something like do you remember the book, The Artist's Way?
The morning pages.
Morning
Yes,
Pages.
a little
Yes.
bit like that.
Yes, a bit like
Mhm.
that. Yeah. I want to get back a minute to the Sarah Baum Brothnick book, Simple Abundance, because I bought, well, I didn't buy the book until I saw her. She was on Oprah right around the time that that book came out. And Oprah said that the one thing in that book that most changed her life was the gratitude journal.
Right.
So I went out and bought the book, and I started at that point. How many years ago is that? It's been at least 20, hasn't it? Maybe more than
Yes, they
that.
re-released it. Yes.
Yes. And I've probably read that book at least 5 different years all the way through, and then go to it every once in a while. But I started doing a gratitude journal then, and I still do it. I'm much more committed to it than I was back in the early days. But every morning, it's kind of one of those things that is non-negotiable.
Mm.
There are a couple of things that are non-negotiable for my morning, and one of them is the gratitude journal. And I write 10 things that I'm grateful for from the previous 24 hours or whatever. And what I most love about that is that it helps me to be more aware in the moment of what's going on. And I tend to think of it the next day. It's like, or sometimes something will happen, go, oh, I'm going to write that in my journal tomorrow. And so it sounds like that's what women, when they work with you, are having the opportunity to do as well. They're getting used to this practice, for one, but also you're giving them kind of permission to pay attention more to their lives and to not be so in their head all the time, to pay attention to especially for busy moms, my goodness, for them to just be able to slow down for a bit. Do you find
Mhm.
that that's what happens?
Well, yes, and especially encourage them to do the handwriting, because that does slow you down. So many people
Mhm.
have said, well, I'm much better on my laptop. I said, no, that's not the point. The point is that you slow down when you're writing, that it gives your head and your heart a chance to catch up, because you put yourself in a whole different part of your brain when you're typing on the keyboard. That critic it's almost like it clicks in as soon as you're typing. So we keep and yes, the critic may turn up, and in which case you just give them another job for that 5 minutes. Say, I'll be with you as soon as this is done. So make a cup of tea or go for a walk, and I'll be back.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to reflect on those details, and not necessarily that you're going to write everything down that is going to paint the picture again, but enough of awareness that you see how your daily life is extraordinary. And you don't have to go looking for, oh, I can call myself an artist because I'm hanging something in the Louvre. You're an artist because you are the author of your life. You are your creating, making the choices for what you do next. And I get passionate. And when I said, I feel like Oprah Barbara Walters crying because that's what happens when I've really made the connection that I cry.
Mhm.
Who I'm with is crying. I've been on interviews, as an example here, where I'm crying, and I just, that's me being real. And
Yeah.
it kept me from being a speaker for a long time.
Did it?
And I thought, I I can't just practice until I'm not crying at this point, because I don't know which point. And a lot of times the point that I'm crying isn't even in my script. And so this is authentically Mary.
And I think that's so important too, because that sets up that trust factor with you, and the right people, the right women will be drawn to that, and the wrong women won't. So it's that whole, you're being real and authentic. And I think that's, in fact, there was somebody in one of my meetings this morning, and I think she was a featured member. And as she started to wrap up, her voice broke a little bit. And it was because she's so full of what it is that she's doing in the world. And I think those are the kind of people I want to be around, the people who are living their passion that way. And so, how do you, let me see, how do you work with I mean, you've said so much about how you work with your clients. Is there anything else so somebody calls you up and you have a conversation, or you schedule a conversation about whatever? What do they usually say? Like, I want to write more, or I want to write a book, or do they sometimes not even know what it is they want, but for some reason they want to talk to you?
Sometimes they just want, well, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Writing mentor, how do you get me to write? What do you make me do? And I don't make you do anything, but you have a voice inside of you that is telling you, hey, there's something we want to say, but you need help doing it.
Mhm.
And talk to Mary. I've had clients who say, my business manager said, my business coach said, I need to be writing a blog. How do I do that?
Oh, wow.
Because I talk about my business all the time, but there's the correlation between the who you are and what you're doing, and the know, like, and trust factor, so that people lean in and say, yeah, that's who I want to work with. So yes, you talk about your business, but you talk about you and why you're doing what you're doing. That's one of the reasons why when people come to me and they want to redo their bio, I go deeper than the standard questions of where did you go to school and what awards have you won in your industry. Because I worked with a client who we got to her why, that she had been doing the basic skills of her industry since she was a little girl, and she didn't see that. And when we put it on her website and had her make it part of her introduction, people were looking at her and seeing her humanity, and not just that she was good at her job. And that's what I strive to help people make, that connection between what it is they want to say, so that it articulates their humanity and how they are here to serve. Because I'm here to serve and help you get your voice out there.
Wow, you've said so many wonderful things. I keep thinking, we need quotes from Mary, quotes from Mary. You help people articulate their humanity. Wow, I love that. I really love that, Mary. That's a big job, an important job. Now we can both cry now, or what?
Yeah. Then I'm complete.
Yes, yes. No, I do love that, because we can. And, we actually talked a little bit. No, it was a conversation I had with someone one-on-one this morning. And we talked a little bit about this, how so many of us over the years stayed masked, stayed hidden,
Mm.
because of where we were, where we worked, maybe the family we grew up in. And we had a certain persona that said, oh, success, everything she touches turns to gold. And yet, once we start letting the real us be seen, not only does it feel really good, but it also gives other women the idea that, no, you're not the only one who's got flaws. You're not the only one who feels broken sometimes, because we're all walking around out there as pieces of ourselves sometimes, and yet we look at everybody else and think everybody else is doing just fine. So when you can get someone to get to that place in their writing where they're actually talking about the real stuff, the stuff that really matters, and without the fear of, oh my gosh, who's going to read this and what's going to, because you're also not talking about necessarily writing a book, so somebody may never read it. It may be just something that had to be on paper for some healing to happen. So I
Absolutely.
think it's just a really really wonderful thing you're doing.
Thank you. I do consider writing a healing tool.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. So is there anything else that you'd like to talk about that I haven't mentioned yet?
Well, when you asked me about my how I work with people, I do work one-on-one.
Okay.
And the beauty of us being able to be on Zoom, it doesn't matter what part of the country we're in, that we can meet as long as we get our time zones straight and talk to each other and really go in depth. I love being able to hold workshops at my kitchen table. And when the World Health allows it, I'd like to get back to that. But for now, we will meet on Zoom.
Okay. And how can people find out more about you?
They can schedule time to talk with me they can go to yourwritingmentor.com/strategy call and get to my calendar that way.
Okay. And you've written at least one book, haven't you?
I have The Secret Artist is up on Kindle, and I'm redoing the text, the print version, because I wanted to give people a place to write in the book so that they didn't, when I gave them the writing prompts at the end of every chapter, that they didn't have to go, oh, I want to write about that. And then, so that's coming. And I'd like to mention also that a lot of my The Secret Artist came out of my journals, that I did go back and find little things that I wanted to make sure, oh, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that. But at the time I was going through, and it's based on my breast cancer experiences. So the first breast cancer experience, I wanted to get back into my life as quickly as possible. It was like, it never happened. The second time, it's like, okay, this is really your wake-up call. You're meant to help other people with their books, and yours is coming right now. So this is where you're going to get your material, and then you build on that. And so I talk a lot about creativity in there, and give you ideas how you can write your story.
I also want to mention for our watchers here that Mary also has an article in this issue of the On Purpose Woman magazine. So you can see that by going to onpurposewomanmagazine.com. Actually, if you're watching this on the magazine page, it's pinned to the top. The magazine's pinned to the top there. Or you can go to onpurposewomanmagazine.com or opwgc.com. They will all get you there. So Mary, thank you so much for sharing. Oh my gosh, not just words of wisdom, but just words that can just give women, I think, so many different angles now to look at themselves. So some people will never write a book, and they never want to write a book, but yet they still have things to say. And
Absolutely.
so I love what you're doing, and I really applaud you for that. So thank you for sharing with us today.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
And I want to thank all of you for joining us for the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show live in the On Purpose Woman magazine. I've changed that, On Purpose Woman magazine business page. For a list of the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show topics, you can go to my website, which is OPWGC, that's onpurposewomanglobalcommunity.com, and click on the magazine. If you love this interview and you want to share with your friends, you'll find it on our YouTube channel in the next 48 hours. You can go over to On Purpose Woman Global Community on YouTube, subscribe, and sign up for notifications. There are already more than 40 inspiring, informative, and fun shows for you to watch on that channel. So coming up on June 17th, that'll be the next talk show, I will actually talk with Catherine Yarborough, who is the other Real Women, Real Purpose talk show host, and we'll chat about your calling versus your should. And if that kind of niggles you a little bit, it sounds like something that you might want to listen into, I hope you'll join us there. And then on June 21st, Catherine Yarborough will interview Anna Pereira, who is the founder of the Wellness Universe. And I want to thank you again for watching the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show.